Good morning and welcome to Prairie Girl and Cowboy Homestead. Today's project on the homestead for me is I have sausage. I've got it thawed out and I'm going to go ahead and make patties up. I'm going to go ahead and put them in pint jars, wide mouth pint jars. I'll fry these just a little bit, brown them, and then put them in the jars and go ahead and pressure can the breakfast sausage. Then I've got a stack of beans. I want to be working on some chili beans plus several pounds of hamburger that I'm going to be frying and canning that up in jars for chili, for tacos. And so that's the project today on the homestead. So I've got my first plate of little sausages made and the patties, and I'm going to go ahead and put some more wood in my stove. I want a hot fire to get these cooking. Let's see, gotta get my wood here. Bear with me. Get a good fire going for cooking. I like the little smaller pieces when I'm cooking. I can regulate my heat a little more. This pan had some grease in already that I'm using. And so we're gonna start frying these up, and I'm not going to completely cook them all the way through. I'm just going to brown them really good on both sides. Then they will go into my wide mouth pint jars. These will be really handy for a quick breakfast and just nice to have them on the shelf. I'm looking forward to doing some more canning projects this month as much as possible, and this is one of them. So we'll be back in a little bit to flip these burgers of sausage. So this step of the process is going pretty fast. I'm just browning, so they're not cooked all the way through, but I'm browning both sides and keeping those warm because they will go into hot, sterile jars, into a hot canner. This is going pretty fast, this step. Just putting another log on the fire. Keep these frying. I have some more sausage I need to make into more patties, and this part is going to be done really soon. It's smelling pretty good in here, but I am smoking it up a little too in the farmhouse. But the patties are frying up really nice. I'll put another one in there. Maybe one more. We'll just keep these rolling. These are about to pull out, not quite. So let them brown just a little more on that side. This one actually, it could brown just a little more. The last of the sausages are cooking, pre-cooking, and here's what's done. Jars are heating, sterilizing in the dishwasher. Pressure canners warming up the water. My extra water's warming, boiling, and the seals are warming up too. So it's about time to put them in the jar. So I was able to get 4 sausage patties in each pint jar. And I've still got some left to can. I won't have enough for a whole canner, so what I'll be doing is frying hamburger and having a few jars of hamburger to go in at the same time. My pressure canner's hot, and I'm warming the hot water back there. The jar lids are hot. So I'm ready to put them together and put them into the pressure canner. So I've got water in some of them. I'm just going to kind of move them around a little bit to get the air bubbles out. And once these are canned, you can see they're starting to make their own broth too. And this will actually work to just pan fry, warm them up for breakfast, or you could make a biscuit and gravy with them. So my pressure canner is cooling down, and once the valve back here goes down, I can remove this weight, and I'm going to let it sit a little bit more, but at that time I can gently open my lid, and I just cock the back of it a little bit to let some of that hot steam out. I don't open it all the way right at once. I let it gradually cool off. And then I'll be taking the jars out and starting the process all over again with the leftover sausages, and I've also got hamburger fried now ready to go into jars. So I'm still keeping my wood stove going. I'm about ready to put hamburger that I've partially cooked in jars, as well as the leftover sausage patties back here. Everything's staying warm up in the warming oven of the wood cook stove. I've got another package down here that I'm slowly cooking. This hamburger is not our home-raised beef, and for that I can really tell. The flavor's not there. It's pretty dry beef, but all in all, it's still going to be some meat on the shelf, a quick, take a jar out, put it in some vegetable soup. I could make hamburger gravy on it, and it's going to be food. It's not going to be our home-raised beef, but I did go ahead and pick some up just so that I get some jars on the shelf. But I would so much rather prefer our beef over this. It needed a little more fat in it. And this one seems to have more fat, this package, so maybe this one will be better. But anyway, doing this portion of the canning process here on the cook stove, keeping it cooking, keeping it warm, and then I'll go back to the other propane stove. As soon as my pressure canner is cooled off, I'll remove the weight. I'll slowly open that lid on the pressure canner, and we'll start it all over. Well, folks, welcome to my hot farmhouse kitchen. It is pretty warm in here. Even though the temperatures today are in the 20s outside, I could be letting this stove go out for a while because it's really hot in here, but I've got it on low. I'm keeping some hamburger pre-cooked, kind of, sort of cooked through up there to keep warm with the leftover sausages. That's in the warming oven is what that's called. And down here, I'm slow cooking the last of the burger. It's on the far side, so it's not getting direct heat, because that'll be a little bit, I'll have to get this canned up here first. But the house is hot. So I'm in the kitchen now waiting for the pressure to come down on my pressure canner so I can take the lid off and start the process over again. But in the meantime, I'm trying to clean up my mess in between. Sink full of soapy hot water, and I'm doing dishes. But it's just a busy day on the homestead again. I'm just trying to get as many projects like this done up while I'm in the mood and get them on my shelf in the pantry. I want to do as much as I can in January. I'm not saying it'll do it every day, but I'm going to strive to get something done towards the root cellar. So time will see how far I get with that. But I'm about to open the door because it's really warm in here, and find me a glass of ice water. So thanks for joining us, and we'll finish up the project. Well, I'm waiting for the pressure canner. I do think the pressure valve has went back down, so it is releasing and cooling off. I'll go over and take the weight off the top and let it vent just a little bit more before I try to crack the lid. But I needed some ice water. It's been quite a morning so far. When we got up, Cowboy went and did the chores right away for me so that I could just go right into the sausage patties and getting those canned up. And, I prefer them pan-fried fresh. But my reason is I just want to have extra on my shelves in my root cellar. Partially just for backup, partially for just quicker food. If I need something, it's already on the shelf. All I need to do is take that jar out off of the shelf, and I can use that broth to make some gravy, or I can just drain that broth off of the sausage and put it right into a frying pan on my wood stove and go ahead and just pan fry it and, freshen it up and maybe put a little bit of bacon grease with it or something. Just something quick, to even wrap a piece of toast around in the summertime. And the hamburger now that I'm getting ready to put in the jars, I'm not as pleased with it now after I've got it cooked. It's store-bought burger, and what can I say? It's not as good as our home-raised, but I'm getting low on that in the freezer, and I didn't want to use some of that, but I wanted to have some cooked in jars on the shelf, so I can either pull it off and put it in some vegetable hamburger soup. I can go ahead and use the broth that's going to be on it and thicken that with some milk and flour and make a hamburger gravy. So just some quick meals that are probably going to help us a little bit when spring hits and it's getting a little busier out and we're both working outside and we come in, but we're both hungry, but Prairie Girl is tired and I'm not wanting to, start a whole meal out. So January for me, I thought, is going to be my month to think ahead and maybe do some of those preps. That's going to make my life a little bit easier come springtime when we're busy out in the garden. And we're hoping to really, get a good garden going. We are talking about making even our potato garden bigger than it was. Just because for the fact we're feeding some moles and we want lots of potatoes. And if I have too many for the root cellar, I'll go to canning my potatoes too. So they're on the shelf. I'll have to take them off the shelf, drain the water out, put them in a fry pan of butter and heat them up. So that's where this Prairie Girl's mind is going, is trying to think ahead of ways that I can have our homegrown, which now this hamburger or this sausage are not homegrown. And that's the only part of this deal today that I'm not liking. But sometimes to get all the extra, you need to go buy. And I did. So I'm really pleased with the sausages. I think they're going to be really good because we ate one after we fried them and they're really good flavor. So I think those are going to be probably better than my burger. And if it was our homegrown burger, it would be awesome, I'm sure. So, but I think this will work good. I can just go ahead and put it in with some vegetables and a jar of my potatoes from the root cellar or a jar of my carrots. And, even if I pan fry it again a little bit in some bacon grease, I think it's going to, and brown it just a little bit more. That meat's going to be pretty good. And actually, it might even be more tender after I open these jars up. Because right now, to me, it's kind of dry. So I've pre-cooked, didn't get it all the way cooked, but it's pre-cooked. And when it goes in the jars over here to go into the pressure canner, I'll be pouring hot water over that burger. So that might make it more tender, just like my roosters the other day. I knew they would be tough. So that's why I said we would pressure can them. And I can tell just by looking at the jar that rooster in that jar is tender meat. I'm really excited to try it because it looks so moist and tender. So I'm thinking canning this store-bought hamburger is going to be the trick. And if I like it that way, I'll probably do more. So it's kind of an experiment on that, but I would rather have our homegrown hamburger. But anyway, right now I don't have that. Maybe later if we get this bull butchered like we're talking about, maybe some of that I can go ahead and put some of our own beef on the shelf. We're going to go ahead and chunk it up and cube a lot of it and put that in jars. So maybe we'll go ahead and grind some and do that too with some of that bull. So it's my month to do some preps ahead of time for easier meals for me come springtime when I'm out in the greenhouse doing my seed starts. I got to have a drink. My mouth is dry. And I'm looking forward to that time of being out in the greenhouse. starting seeds. But I am going to try to hold off until March, 1st of March, maybe end of February, but we'll see. However the weather is at that time, I'll kind of go by that, but in the forecast. Our weather so far today has been really great. We do have some really cold stuff coming in, but I'm hoping by the next time I listen to the weather forecast, it's going to say it's going east of us. It's moving out or going back up to Canada, the northern part where we don't get hit. But I feel bad for the critters because it is quite a shock for them. But last night did get cooler, so that was a little bit of a adjustment for them. So, but anyway, I better go release my pressure canner and be ready to get the other meat in and going because time's a-wasting and the clock is going fast today. So I've got my lid off the canner and it's been sitting in the hot water for just a little while to adjust, and it's pretty hot still, but they're looking great. So I have 2 jars left of the sausage patties and 5 jars of hamburger started. And I'm just getting the air out. I've put just 1/4 teaspoon of salt in and then just hot water. And it's ready to go into the canner.